Hey everyone, I'm Rain and this video will serve as a small introduction to my channel. I'll be critically analyzing manga and anything that falls under that umbrella. So what sets me apart from all the other manga reviewing channels? Well, I'll have a focus on the writing aspects of these stories with a dead eye on writing technique. I'll go over what a writer did wrong or anything that might have impressed me. I'll be highlighting problems that writers get themselves into, how to avoid making them, and if possible, how to fix them without retconning their story or adding external or foreign entities. This means no headcanon. I'll briefly go over the format that I'll be using and explain why I'll be focusing on these specific areas. First chapter. Why is the first chapter so important? Well, the first chapter is important for a couple of reasons. A big one is that this is the first impression that you give to most, if not all, of the viewers. It'll either hook them or it won't. This is really important for a writer since it might determine whether the series keeps on going or if it gets cut. Within the first episode or chapter, the writer has to hopefully accomplish introducing their main character or characters, the setting or environment to some extent, and most importantly, our reason for watching. The first episode or chapter must be entertaining and leave the audience wanting more. Hopefully the writer accomplishes all of this without the use of exposition, which is one of the biggest signs of either lazy or bad writing. A good writer, on the other hand, will use multiple techniques to help the audience understand without outright telling them, or they might hide their exposition through a proxy. An extremely overused technique that has characters explaining something to another character that is foreign to the environment and using them as a proxy to explain things to the audience. This has played a major role in the popularization of isekai, since a new character to a world or environment needs to have things explained to them. The best writers, however, don't need a proxy. They let the audience figure things out by showing them just the right amount of information without explaining it, and letting the audience simply connect the dots. Although I should note that using a proxy or outright explaining things isn't necessarily a bad thing if implemented correctly. I should also note here that the first episode or chapter criteria won't apply to movies due to the nature of the medium. Continuity. Any consistency issues in the story will be talked about here, whether it be in world building, the magic system, plot, timeline, or flaws in logic. The world the characters inhabit is a very important factor in creating a consistent story that will not suspend the audience's disbelief. When a writer contradicts aspects of their own world because they broke the rules that they created when they were building their universe or their magic system for either convenience, lack of planning, or anything else, we have a big problem. We see these issues arise when the writer fails to plan out their story properly, or they might oversee a certain issue or scenario that leads to unrealistic situations, conditions, or solutions. I'll note here that soft magic systems are a lot less impressive than hard magic systems, since with soft magic systems the possibility of conveniently having an answer for a problem is a lot higher due to the lack of boundaries set by the author. Plot and pacing. Plot is the reason the story continues to push in a direction, and pacing is the rate at which the story unfolds. Plot progression will be the main focus, as plot is the purpose of a story, and since it is incredibly hard to get published without having a concrete plot, this will largely be a critique of the writer's creativity, implementation, and pacing of their plot. Ideal pacing would imply that every chapter helps in developing the story, characters, magic system, or environment. If a chapter doesn't do so, it could be left out completely, since it does not add anything of significance to the story, aka filler. Also, it's important that the audience knows why the story is about the main character. Anytime they don't, it's normally because the plot or the MC's goal have not been correctly established. Character depth and analysis. Aside from visual appeal, the connection between the audience and the characters is very heavily based on the personality of characters and how relatable they are, the problems they face, and how it affects them. Characters should have set personalities that either change slowly over time or hardly at all. Much like people in the real world, it takes a lot of self-reflection and in some cases conflict or near-death experience for people to change. As the name suggests, I'll be focusing on the depth of characters and their traits, how kind, fun, intelligent, dumb, evil, or broken they are. All of us have flaws, even the people we look up to and the people we love, so it makes sense that we relate or like characters that inhabit these same traits. I will be looking at characters' behavior to reflect their thoughts or to be in line with their goals, personality, flaws, or strengths, and how they are used in conjunction with other characters or the story. If a character is smart, I want to see them do smart things. If they are a liar, I want to see it show in their behavior and dialogue. I'll try to focus on characters that do have depth to them in this section, but I will briefly mention characters that in my eyes were largely lacking in the depth department, even though they played a major role in the story. The main issue in character are when they are bland, change their way simply because someone told them to, or when a character's personality revolves around another character. Why did I choose these specific topics? It is my own opinion that if a story does well in these areas, you more or less have a really solid story, which isn't an indication that the story will necessarily be popular, will however be well written. As I have stated already, I will largely, if not only, focus on storytelling technique. This means that I will not talk about visuals from a critical view. I will also not go over score, that means openings and closings. I'll also try to focus on critiquing, at least for now, finished works, so things like One Piece or My Hero Academia will not be in my crosshairs for the time being. I'll note that I'll be going for manga critiques as they are, most of the time, the source material for anime. I will try to be as unbiased as I possibly can, and I hope that my first two critiques prove that, since they were my first two anime that I watched, and are the reason I got into anime and manga. That aside, let's get started with these critiques. I hope you all enjoy my content.